Hey Buckley, have you ever made a video that you regret releasing? Ask me this question again in a week, but here we are. As you know, Charlie Kirk was shot, murdered, assassinated a week ago. Selfishly doing so when I wouldn't have time to get a video about it ready for that Saturday. No. But if I don't make this video, people go, "What, Buckley? You're too cowardly to talk about Charlie Kirk's death, you lib? You probably cheered. We're putting you on the list." And if I do make the video, people go, "Buckley, stick to talking about music and pop stars. That's all you know." But as a guy who spent 16 years saying questionable things into a microphone while people tell me I should make like an Atari Teenage Riot song and delete myself, I feel like I might have an opinion on all this. Let's get this out of the way very early so you can ignore it right off the bat. No, I do not think Charlie Kirk should have been murdered. While I do support the death penalty, I've made it pretty clear that I don't think it should be applied to people who are too loud in a subway, or who shoplift from a Dollar General, or who say things on the internet. So, we're good there? You understand my position on that? I'm not gonna see comments about how I support this? Of course I fucking am, but to say Chaz was a polarizing figure would be like saying the sky is blue, and that a million people will argue with you about that statement. Was Charlie a racist, a bigot, homophobic? I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't confidently answer that question. I didn't watch him regularly, and I don't know what was in his heart. Well, we all saw what was in Buckley, the list. But he was a Christian fundamentalist. We can all agree on that, right? Is that too controversial a statement? He was proud of that. The funny thing about Charlie Kirk haters and Charlie Kirk supporters is that they all share the same clips. They'll post, say, that clip of him saying that if his own 10-year-old daughter was involuntarily impregnated, he would make his daughter keep that baby. His fans don't see a single thing wrong with that. They go, "See, he valued life no matter what. That's a man of true faith and principles." And his detractors see that and go, the fuck? A 10-year-old? And this is why I don't like any of these debate me bros. Not a single one of them are interested in having a conversation. They'll tell you that's what they're there for, but they aren't. Not Destiny or Hassan on the left. Not Steven Crowder and his change my mind horse shit. Not any of them. They view debate as a sport or a game, like a tennis match, volleying back and forth, just waiting for the opportunity to smash the ball in their face, looking for that opening, that mistake to take advantage of. They don't want to have a discussion. Half the time, they're all talking over each other. Charlie in particular, again, his fans will spin it that it was great that he was giving the opportunity to the youth to debate with him. I would argue that he was intentionally picking soft opponents, going to college campuses and on that fecal scrapings of a Jubilee show to argue with a bunch of students who don't know fucking shit from Shinola, as my grandpappy'd say. Guaranteed he'd always look good and generate clips that, again, would be shared by both sides as a win. That one of the girl who calls his smile creepy. The lefties go, he does have a creepy smile. And the righties go, look, they can't debate in good faith, so they just start name-calling, stupid libs. And people think this shit is the second coming of James Baldwin versus William F. Buckley. No relation. But it's all slop. Quick aside, fuck, I hate that Jubilee garbage. One guy with an unwavering belief in a bad opinion versus 20 clout-chasing idiots who are literally tripping over each other to make themselves the main character of this show. That's not intellectual debate. It's not a good faith conversation. It's the exact same trash TV CNN was doing with Crossfire that Jon Stewart called out 20 years ago. But again, none of that means that I think Charlie Kirk should have died. Now sure, Charlie Kirk once said, "I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational." Again, he was unwilling to bend on any idea, and people call him a moderate. No, he's not Nick Fuentes, a man who revels in being a white supremacist, with the last name Fuentes. But a moderate position on the Second Amendment isn't, sometimes school shootings are necessary. Sucks, but it's rational. But we don't need to go down this road again, do we? You guys already think you know my thoughts on guns. Which, by the way, are, I think people should be allowed to have them, but maybe there should be a way to make sure they're in the right hands. Which has been twisted into, Buckley wants to take away my guns. But anyway, let's talk about the guy who had the gun in this case, because we can make jokes about him, right? No lists for that? 22-year-old Tyler Robinson preferred to ask his questions from about 200 meters away, reportedly etching his bullets with memes like, notices bulges, ooh, what's this? And the inputs to drop bombs and Helldivers 2, as well as, hey fascist, catch, and Bella Ciao, left-wing political messages. At first, oh man, Twitter was so pissed. A white kid from Utah who grew up with a conservative family, went to church, wore a costume where he's riding Donald Trump for Halloween one year? How could he? But then they found out he was possibly dating a trans woman, so, oh thank God he wasn't really one of us. They were so relieved. Stories suggest that Tyler's dad turned him in, or convinced him to turn himself in. One story said his dad was a 27-year veteran of the police force, but the police were like, oh, we don't know this guy. But we can assume that was daddy's gun. And once it was found at the scene, they'd be knocking at his door, so he'd probably want to make sure that he wasn't tied to it. Dad might have felt a little responsible too. Someone taught little Tyler how to shoot. There's a ton of pictures of him with guns. They probably went hunting. Ty here learned how to bag a 10-pointer from a blind a few hundred yards away. This wasn't his first time with a gun in his hands. But later, the FBI was like, we actually figured out who it was from looking at his trans partner's texts. Sounds like someone's trying to weasel out of paying that $100,000 reward. They later published the conversation between Tyler and his roommate, and no one believed it because they spoke in complete sentences. Like people thought he'd text, what? Just on a live Charlie K, for real, lol, bye. He doesn't text like a normal 22-year-old, this is probably fake. You know what else normal 22-year-olds don't do? Commit long-range murder. But this is the supposed story. Tyler did what he did, then went home. His dad saw the news and was like, son, is this you? And Tyler confessed. Like this fucking idiot murdered a man and then thought he'd just go back to playing video games and pissing around on 4chan. Welp, just killed a man. Time to fire up Boku no Hero Academia on Crunchyroll. Dad, what? I'm busy, I told you. I lost your bolt-action rifle at the grocery store. I'll check the lost and found later. God. But anyway, for those of you who did hate Charlie so much that you wished he were dead, you have to understand his death makes things worse, right? Before, he was a prominent figure, sure, and feel free to call me naive, but again, I think he was just another right-wing mouthpiece. A younger Rush Limbaugh. Had nearly 4 million subscribers on YouTube. Barely any by today's standards. Mr. Beast gets more views in 10 minutes. But he gained nearly 1 million subscribers right after his death. Right-wingers have a guy to point at now and say, see, the left wants to kill us just for saying words. Alex Jones is threatening to complete Charlie Kirk's tour. There's a guy who we know should be around kids in schools. You got armies of mouth breathers out doxing people on Twitter and Facebook, making phone calls to their employers. They got some Office Depot workers fired because they didn't want to print a poster. And goofballs are going, I'll go check to make sure they actually are fired next week. I have a feeling Elon's not going to fund those legal bills, huh? People are reveling in the late-night hosts being canceled. Jimmy Kimmel's show was preempted indefinitely because of comments he made. Mostly it seems for reporting shit before they had all the facts, claiming that the shooter was mega. This is why I don't do videos before all the facts are out. But anyway, as you know, lying on TV isn't allowed, which is why there are no more 24-hour news networks. Wait, what? No, but what's funny is that Disney, who owns his show, just had to settle with Gina Carano for firing someone for their views. So, I don't know. Maybe Jimmy can sue and get a bit part in the Mandalorian movie as a consolation prize too. I mentioned it twice, 3 times now, but they're making a searchable database of anyone who's ever said anything negative about Charlie Kirk, whether they did or not. There's been like 2 good guys in history who made lists. Santa Claus and Oscar Schindler. Anyone making lists of their political enemies aren't usually the good guys. You got losers grifting on this. People selling replicas of the shirt he died wearing on Amazon. All proceeds go to charity. That's my daughter's name. E-hookers going, I'm quitting OnlyFans to live stream on YouTube and TikTok. Follow me there. It's God ordained. Hassan making it about himself, writing an article for the New York Times titled, "I was supposed to debate Charlie Kirk. Here's what I would have said." Who gives a shit? Go debate the coffin. Would have been the same outcome. You got people creating AI images of Charlie Kirk consoling the dead Ukrainian woman on the subway. Come the fuck on. You got weirdos claiming, "Starbucks wouldn't write Charlie Kirk on my cup. I was trying to honor him." By buying coffee in his name at the Big Lib coffee shop? Oh, what an honor. You get a bunch of knoblicks all saying, "We are Charlie," completely ignoring that was already a slogan specifically for people who died exercising their free speech. I don't know how old Kirk felt about those Muhammad drawings though, but either way, I probably heard about Chuck once a month before this, and a lot of people I talked to had never even heard of him at all. Now, I've spent the last week and a half looking at his fucking tooth-to-gum ratio on the internet as everyone makes him a martyr. He was absolutely better off alive. He was just a mouthpiece owning the libs, arguing with piss-pants know-nothing college kids. He had no real power. Now, he's got the goddamn vice president hauling his body off and guest hosting his podcast, completely unprecedented. And people talking about his wife becoming the next vice president to President Vance. Alive, he was a goofy fuck with a relatively small following. Dead, he's a symbol. Conservatives are comparing him to MLK and want to make a holiday in his honor. I don't think violence was the answer, but I gotta be honest with you. At this point, I don't even know what the fucking question is anymore.